Hi, dragonflies. How is everybody doing today? Are we still okay with being called dragonflies? Minnie Dilly thinks it's a bit cringy, to quote her exactly. Um, but then I kind of think that pretty much 90% of everything I do at the moment is a little bit cringy to her. So she's at that age. So I think I'm just going to ride that wave of being the cringy, embarrassing parent. It comes to all of us parents at some point, I'm sure. And just kind of make the most of it. Make the most of the freedom with being able to embarrass her. So yeah, there we go. um, sorry. That aside, we're doing a VR today, and there are so many good hashtags at the moment, and I've struggled to choose which one to do first. And I was going to put my own hashtag out, but do you know, that can wait because there's so many good ones out there that we really don't need mine at the moment. Um, but the one I've chosen to do today is a VR to the hashtag the deck that, which is by the brilliant Simon at Hermit's Cave. If you are not aware of Simon, firstly, where have you been? And secondly, please go and view the channel, subscribe. Honestly, I find that Simon's content is soul food. It's so heartfelt and genuine and thoughtful, and I love it. I really do. Um, and this particular hashtag is so reflective of that, which is why I wanted to do it. It's a really thoughtful hashtag. So yeah, I'm sorry that my voice is a little bit croaky today. I don't know what's happened there, but we'll go with it, and we shall get into the tag. Okay, so prompt number one in this particular tag, sorry, couldn't find the word then, is a deck that reflects who you used to be. And I hate to bang on about it because I mention it in a lot of videos, but I really want to answer these prompts honestly. I like to do that in all the VRs I do. And that can mean repeating myself, and it also can mean repeating decks. I don't want to be in a situation where I'm just choosing decks because I haven't shown them and then trying to make the prompts fit around them. I want to give an honest sort of answer to them. So I am going to go for a deck that I've shown before. And I am going to bang on about my previous history, which I've done before, I know. But it's the honest answer. This is the Fantasy Night Theatre Tarot. And this deck is by Alessa Deng. I believe it was a Kickstarter. I got this pre-loved, so that's something that I'd need to verify. But I think it was a Kickstarter. And, you know, if you've watched my channel before, you know why I've chosen this deck. For those that don't know, I'm just going to very briefly say I was, in my younger days, I was a professional dancer. I started dancing at the age of 3. I started doing sort of theatrical things at a very young age, and it just became my life and all I wanted to do. So I trained hard, I trained long, I trained in a sort of a regional dance school and amateur dramatics. Then I did A-levels, but 2 of those were in performance subjects. And then I went to Performing Arts College, and it was just my identity for 3 decades of my life. So when eventually the career ended, abruptly due to injury, really, I didn't know who I was anymore. And I know that I'm not alone in that. I know that some friends that I know from that time that I'm still connected with feel exactly the same. When that career ends, it's so all-consuming and it's so much your identity. You kind of go, well, who am I now? now that I am not this, who am I? And, you know, it took me, as you know, if you've watched my videos before, it took me another decade to start to find myself again. And that was a journey through, work on my mental health, particularly because, you know, as joyful as the performance career is, it can also be, as I've said before, horribly tough on your mental health and your self-confidence and your self-image. And it's taken a lot of work, and I'm still not there yet, but at age 46, I feel like I'm a lot closer than I ever was to finding out who I am when I'm not the dancer. So that's why this sort of real kind of performance theatre related deck reflects who I used to be. You know, and she's still in there. The dancer and the performer's still in there. I still sing in a band, but I mean sort of in, I guess, she's, yeah, I don't know, I can't explain it, but she's still in there. The positive, let's say the positive sides of the performer are still here. I'm just letting go of the negatives and finding some more positives to put in their place. Yeah, that's the best way to explain it. So yeah, anyway, the deck is beautiful. I love the artwork. It's so unique. I've mentioned before that I really love momentum and movement in a card, and there's a lot of that in this deck. It's very, very cool. So yes, that is the deck that reflects who I used to be, which I think is a wonderful prompt, very deep prompt. And yeah, and for that, it's the Fantasy Night Theatre by Alessa Deng. Okay, prompt number 2 is the deck that surprised me the most. This is a really tricky one, because a lot of decks have surprised me recently. Not least of all the Pagan Otherworlds, which I spoke about in a previous video, that I adore that deck, but I just have never got a really good reading from it until this month, when I started to use it for my ancestor work with the Ancestral Grimoire, and it has come alive for me, and I'm so pleased and surprised. But I've talked about that deck a lot, and although I want to remain honest in these prompts, I also don't want to bore you. So I'm going to go with this deck. This is the... Oh, hello. I don't know why I'm closing it. I'm going to open it again in a minute. But this is the Ghosts and Spirit Tarot by Lisa Hunt. I got this pre-loved. A lady on Vinted was selling off a lot of her collection. And really for very cheap, honestly. And this deck caught my eye because I'm massively interested in the supernatural world. We have... Okay, I mean, if you didn't think I was a little bit nutty before, you might do now. We have a resident ghost in our house, Blanche, seen by many, many people independently of each other. And, you know, it's a world that I'm fascinated by. And so I thought, well, you know, this deck's a no-brainer, right? I'm going to absolutely love this deck. And I was really excited for it to arrive. But what I didn't do is what I normally do, and is what I normally suggest you do if you're going to buy pre-loved decks, is to A, check and be 100% sure it's genuine, which I did. This one is a genuine Low Scarabeo tuck box deck. But if there are not enough pictures, either don't buy it or go and do your research. If you're sure the deck is genuine, go and look at any pictures you can find on the internet, any reviews of the deck, any walkthroughs. But I didn't do that. I just thought, you know what, it's so cheap. I love the premise of this deck. I'm sure I'm going to love it. I loved the cover photo, which was actually this one. I am going to love this deck. And I was so excited for it to arrive. But, oh gosh, dragonflies, I don't even really know why, but I'm so disappointed by how I feel about this deck, and I'm really surprised. I thought I would fall head over heels in love with this deck and want to continually use it. I think the first thing that I am not loving is the backs. I know it's a minor thing, but I thought the ghosts there look a little bit too cartoony and like, you know, things you'd find on the Halloween range in Asda or something. I don't know. But then I'm kind of not a fan of the borders. I don't mind borders generally, but I see what they're trying to do. But yeah, I don't know, I find them kind of annoying. And yes, I could trim them, but I'm yet to be brave enough to start trimming decks. I don't trust myself. But I think the main thing for me is I just don't like... No, that's not true. I don't dislike the artwork, but I just don't find the artwork particularly readable. I don't know if that makes sense. So the Queen of Wands, for example, is a beautiful card. There's no two ways about it. And I understand that she is transparent. She is a spirit. I get that. But in a lot of these cards, the colour palette is so close to... The colours are so close to each other. And the sort of line work is so sort of... I don't know, kind of muddled within the sort of foreground is so muddled within the background in a lot of the cards. I find that kind of off-putting, which is a shame because actually it's beautiful, but yeah, I'm just not wanting to read with it. Now, see, I really like that card, but yeah, there's a lot of the cards that I just feel aren't defined enough, maybe. I don't know. And I don't mind a busy image. I like that if there are things in the background I can pick out that will deepen my understanding of the card, that will deepen the reading. But it's quite difficult to kind of make those out in this. And I also don't entirely get some of the cards. They don't reflect... Yeah, see that? I don't necessarily see the Ten of Wands in that. I don't know, maybe if I kind of do some proper work with it, because actually I was set to Eight of Wands. It was probably just me and maybe my inexperience, but I don't see it. Yeah, I don't. Anyway, perhaps if I work with it, because I just kind of got it and went, oh, I'm so disappointed. Perhaps if I work with it, give it a good try, I may change my mind and it will surprise me all over again, but for a more positive reason. But for the moment, it surprised me that I was so disappointed in it. So that is the Ghosts and Spirits Tarot by Lisa Hunt. Okay, next up is a deck that intimidates you. Yeah, this was quite an easy pick for me. I've gone with this teeny tiny little, rather innocuous and cute looking little deck, and you're probably thinking, well, why on earth are you intimidated by that? And the simple reason is because it is a Lenormand deck. This is the Mystical Lenormand by regular Elizabeth Fletcher, and it's painted by Urban Troche. I can see, oh my goodness, I haven't got my reading glasses on, it's really tiny, and I can see there are umlauts, but my pronunciation is probably still wrong. So yeah, it's just simply because this is the only Lenormand deck I own. I got this, I'll start showing you actually, so save a little bit of time, otherwise we're going to be here all week. I got this, again, pre-loved. It wasn't very expensive, but I kind of thought, you know what, I think I'm at a stage where I can maybe start to consider learning a new system. And Lenormand was sort of, I was drawn to Lenormand. And this particular deck, I love the imagery in. It's a style of art that, if you have watched my channel before, you'll know that I really appreciate the kind of medieval vibes. And I absolutely fell in love with it, honestly. And I do love it. I think it's absolutely gorgeous. But I'm too intimidated because it's a new system. And I'm so kind of stuck in RWS being my safety zone, that I think I'm just really kind of nervous that somehow everything I know about RWS will suddenly be sort of knocked out of my brain and replaced by Lenormand, and then I won't remember anything about RWS again, which is absolutely ridiculous. I know it's so silly to think that I have, you know, I do have the brain capacity, I do have the capability to learn 2 tarot systems. So I really need to put the old big girl pants on, frankly, and get this deck out and learn. I really, really do, because it's so gorgeous. I absolutely adore it. But yeah, at the moment, still a bit intimidated by the whole idea of learning a new system. Perhaps it's my age, I don't know. But it deserves to be learned, and I will do it, dragonflies. I will, as I say, get a grip on myself and start to learn it. I hope you could see that properly, actually, where it's so diddy. It may not be zoomed in enough, but anyway. Yeah, the Mystical Lenormand, and that is my deck that I am currently intimidated by. So our next prompt is a deck that is pure comfort. Now, I did a similar prompt to this on the Let's Go Shopping tag for the bakery, and I used the Bee Tarot, which is a lovely comforting deck. I do love that. There are more I could use. I could use the Earth Woman Tarot. I could use Green Witch Tarot. First Day for Broken Hearts. But if I'm really, really honest, I have to go with this deck because it is absolutely the deck I go to when I need comfort. And I know I've talked about this before, I know I've shown it before, but as I said, I really want to be as honest as I can with these prompts, and if that means some repetition, then so be it. I think this is probably my favourite deck ever, at least at the moment, of the decks that I have, tarot or oracle. And as I've said before many times, it feels like this deck was created just for me. Obviously, I know it wasn't, but that's the feeling I get from this deck. And it's kind of like the polar opposite, really, to the Fantasy Night Theatre. I love all the little stories with each card. Yeah, it's the polar opposite to the Fantasy Night Theatre Tarot. Which is reflective of who I used to be, and this is very much reflecting who I am now, who I am becoming, and it is the deck that reassures me that that person is okay. It tells me that that person is enough, that the path I am on is the right one for me, and it just affirms those things for me. And particularly because the path I've chosen is as a solitary practitioner in terms of witchcraft, and sorry, I get so carried away looking at this deck. My inability to recall any of my vocabulary just goes so far out of the window. That's my favourite card. That was the card that said to me, you are on the right path, you are enough, what you are doing is good, you are okay. Look at yourself in the mirror and say, this is correct, and move forward from there. So I will go to this deck if I need comfort and affirmation and just a hug. The hug that says, you're all right, love. Don't believe all the things that your inner saboteur will tell you. you know, you're getting much better at telling her to do one. So, you know, keep it up. And this deck is the counter to the inner saboteur, and I could discuss it, show it for hours and hours and hours, but I won't, because you have heard about it before. But I just am completely and utterly in love with this deck, and it is 100% my pure comfort. Okay, so the next tag is another tag I could have picked several decks for, but that gave me the freedom to pick a deck that I haven't shown so much. As far as decks that give the best readings, which is the prompt, sorry, probably should have mentioned that, I will always go to Tarn Ellis's Earthwoman Tarot, Fyodor Pavlov. There's so many, but I'm going to go for this prompt for a good old workhorse, hence the absolute state of the pouch it's in. And I only put it in the pouch because the box had got so trashed because it's been used so much. Miraculously, the cards are in fabulous condition still, though. And this is the Robin Wood Tarot. And it is an absolute workhorse. It's so reliable. And just you just never get a duff reading from this. And yes, it helps that it's kind of, you know, pretty much a Rider-Waite clone almost. But yeah, I guess you could call it a clone. It's certainly very heavily based in RWS, and it's but it's like for me it feels like RWS with its best clothes on. It's like RWS but a little bit poshed up. And I think this is the second or third deck I owned. Trying to think back, it might be the Druidcraft that was second and this was the third, but I kind of struggled at first, but now, you know, if I want a reading that's just like straightforward, clear, no messing about, no sort of little hidden things or bits and bobs to uncover or investigate, if I just want, boom, that's your reading, this is the deck, or at least one of them. And yeah, as I say, it's a complete workhorse. I use this a lot more than the cards suggest I have. I'm actually quite surprised by how what good condition the cards are. But then you see, I'm not a fancy shuffler, as you well know. I can't do all the kind of fanny all the fanning and the yeah, anyway. Oh, stop, Dilly. So yeah, I think maybe that's one reason they're not quite so dog-eared as they could be. But yeah, I love it, and it's a nice sort of real kind of pagan-y vibe, RWS as well. Oh, it's upside down. And I'm sure most of you have seen this deck and are very well aware of it, but it's just fab. I absolutely love it. It does what it says on the tin, and for that reason, it's a great deck for that particular prompt. The card that gives the deck, sorry, that gives the best readings. Okay, next prompt. This was an easy one. This is the deck that is too pretty to use, but you love it anyway. I'm just going to move Gaia and Mike and my little toadstool for a minute so I can fit this in. So the majority of my decks at the moment are mass market. I have got some Kickstarters on the way, and I have got a few indie decks that I bought pre-loved. So I don't have many that are kind of really rare or very, very special, or in terms of their kind of rarity or production. I don't know what I'm saying, dragonflies, but this is nothing new to you. So this was really the only deck that I could use for this prompt. but it's so truthful. This is the special edition of the This Might Hurt tarot. I got this pre-loved, but it's so beautiful. Look, hopefully you can see in the shot that how gorgeous, for a start, the packaging is, the box is. It's got this absolutely beautiful reading cloth, which I keep getting out to use and then going, no, can't possibly use it. It's got the little journal in it as well that you can kind of make notes. But again, guess what? I haven't. And it comes with the Oracle, the This Might Help Oracle, as a companion. And I haven't used them. Sorry, I should probably say this. The decks are by Isabella Ottman. They're just so lovely. And I haven't used them because I'm scared. Because it's a lovely special edition, I don't want to mess it up. I don't want it to become all kind of tatty and it's a shame. I mean, like, even like not everyone loves these fussy boxes. I know that, but this one's just so beautiful. The production value on this is so good. I love a floral print. Hopefully you can see that. It's got really lovely quality little guidebook. Let me just give you a little flick through. And cards, got this gorgeous holographic edging. And it's a really nice deck. I really would like to use it because I'm sort of getting into using modern decks a little bit more now. As you know, I've got so many sort of historical decks and ancient decks, witchy decks, pagan-y decks, and so it would be really cool to use this, but I don't want to rub the gilding off. I don't want the edges of the cards to go, I want to keep this really nice, and I think because of that I'm gonna have to look at getting a standard edition of this, perhaps even pre-loved, that I can use, because it needs to be used. That's what they're for, right? These are they're not necessarily, I mean, some of them are collector's items, I get that, but also tarot's there to be used. It is it's a tool to be used, and it doesn't sort of seem right that it's just kind of sat there looking all fluffy and cute and pretty. But I think the way that I'm going to kind of balance that in my head is to get a copy that is a tool, can be used, and keep this as a really nice collectible piece, because it's just too pretty to mess up, honestly. So yeah, I'll try not to show everything, because my videos do tend to be a little bit on the long side. Oh, crikey. It's all right. If you were starting to think that this video was looking a bit professional for Dilly, there's your reassurance that I'm still the same old disorganized me. So yeah, that's the This Might Hurt Tarot by Isabella Ottman, and it's the special edition that is too pretty for me to use. Right, I think I've sorted my shot out again after the incident. The next prompt is the deck that made me fall in love with tarot again. And again, this is a deck that I have mentioned several times before, but it's the honest answer. There is only one answer to this, really. And it has to be the Wildwood Tarot, which is my soul deck. And it's bizarre. It doesn't really make a lot of sense. In case you haven't watched any of my previous videos, this deck came to me at a time when I was feeling that I just couldn't do it. I got into tarot, or decided to learn tarot, after my father-in-law passed away, pretty soon after my father-in-law passed away. And I'd had an amazing tarot reading, my first ever tarot reading. And And so I immediately went out and got an RWS deck. And, you know, looking back, I thought it was because I wasn't connecting with RWS. I mean, look, for a start, there's the Cernabus giant, and I've just found out that I have, or recently found out that I have a lot of ancestry in Cernabus, which is very cool. Anyway, that aside, yeah, so I thought it was just because maybe RWS wasn't working for me, because I had the RWS, then I got the Druid Craft to try that, because that was the deck that was used in the tarot reading that I'd had. And I loved the deck, but again, just wasn't feeling it, I wasn't getting it. And then the Robin Wood Tarot, I think that was the order they came in. And at the time, even that was just, no, I don't get it. I just can't do this. But now I think that actually, the more I sort of talk it through with you guys, I think that I just wasn't in the right place. I was so steeped in grief, we all were, that I think that perhaps I just wasn't in the right place. Because now, you know, I love reading with RWS, I love reading with the Druidcraft, I love reading with Robin Wood. But yeah, I think that's probably the reason why. But this deck came to me a little bit after those. I don't know why I did it. I had this little tiny break where I gave up because I thought I wasn't ever going to be able to read tarot. And then something drew me to this deck. Something made me get this deck. And I didn't look back. And it's ridiculous because, you know, it's not a beginner's deck, really, in any way, shape or form. But I connected with it instantly. It was like coming, just about says like coming home. And I you know, I consider myself a pretty old soul, honestly. I think I've lived a fair few lives, it feels like. And I just recognise, I know it sounds bizarre and probably a bit nutty, but I really do recognise and connect with all of these cards, all of the images in them. It feels like a life I've lived. And I get goosebumps when I use this deck. And it was the first deck that I suddenly went, I can do this. I get it. I get it. And I started to sort of do readings for myself, but also I would give readings to my husband with this. And they were so on the nose. And it was so intuitive. You know, I really did work so intuitively with this deck that it just became the catalyst for me to kind of continue on and continue to try and master tarot. Now, obviously, I'm far from mastery, but, you know, I'm at least competent now, which is more than I was before I got this deck. So, yeah, I can't fully explain it. You can't always fully explain why a deck just becomes your soul deck, but yeah, and obviously if anyone knows about my connection with the Wanderer, if you don't, please go back and view a few more of my videos and you'll find out why. I don't want to go on too long, but yeah, my soul deck, the deck that made me fall in love with tarot again, is absolutely the Wildwood Tarot. So the next tag we have is a deck that you wish more people talked about. Now, this is a bit of a struggle because having only really connected with TarotTube in the last 6 months, there's no way I can have seen every single tarot video that's been put up over the years. So it was really difficult for me to actually qualify whether or not a deck has been talked about a lot or not. And, you know, all the decks in my collection, there's a few that I think, oh, I've never heard of that before. Why did I never hear about that before? And it's not necessarily because it hasn't been talked about, because actually when I searched on YouTube in preparation for this video, I realised that actually they've all been talked about a lot and I just have missed the videos because they were posted a year ago, 2 years ago, or they just haven't made it onto my feed. So what I have done is I have chosen a deck that is a pretty old deck. It was fairly early on in my tarot purchasing that I got this as well. It was pre-YouTube that I got this. And also, I did have a little look on YouTube, and a lot of the videos for this deck are kind of 9 years old. So I kind of figured that this is a deck that people aren't really talking about at the moment, at least. And this is the Chinese Tarot deck. I will not insult the incredible creator by attempting to pronounce their name on YouTube, because let's be honest, I'm not going to get it right. This deck deserves to stay in people's conscience, its consciousness. Why do I lose the ability to function like a normal human being when I make these videos? I don't know. Anyway, it's part of what you love about me, right? I'll keep telling myself that. Anyway, Chinese Tarot. So yeah, I bought this deck relatively early on. It might have even been the one I bought after the Wildwood, because I really, really love Chinese art, and this is such a beautiful deck. It's based in RWS, and it's just so gorgeous. Every single image is an image I want to frame and put on the wall. Literally every single one. And I just wonder if people kind of that are newer to tarot now know about this deck. It hasn't been used for quite some time. It's kind of, I put it in order because I was looking through it for my favourite cards video. But I did use it early doors when I first got it, and it's lovely. It's a really nice deck. It's another one that gives a really good reading. Sometimes not massively clear, you have to dig a little bit, but or certainly that was the case for me. But I think just more than anything, it's so aesthetically pleasing. It really is gorgeous. And I keep thinking about, again, I talk about trimming decks because I think this would be beautiful trimmed down and very easy to do. But it scares me. It really terrifies me. I've watched so many tutorials on trimming decks, but I just don't have the sort of confidence that I'm not going to mess it up. And, you know, with a deck like this, I love it so much that I'm really nervous about messing it up. But yeah, so I think this was first published, this deck, I believe. Let me check the box. Yeah, 1989. This particular one is from 2013, I think. And yeah, it's just so stunning. There isn't a card in this deck that I don't like. And I love to read with it. I don't know why I haven't used it for ages. I guess just because when you start buying a lot of decks, some of them are going to kind of get neglected a bit. But yeah, I will go back to this one for sure. Probably sooner rather than later, because I love it. It's so gorgeous. Anyway, yeah, so that is a deck that I think people should still be talking about. If people are still talking about it, I'm really sorry. I've just missed it. But because it's quite an old deck, it's possible that people aren't still talking about it. So yeah, that is the Chinese Tarot deck. Okay, so this one was probably the trickiest prompt. This is a deck that feels like a secret between us. And Simon, when he did his original video, which I will link, by the way, spoke about perhaps it being a deck that not everyone's going to love. That maybe is a little controversial, but you love it. I kind of thought about the Hieronymus Bosch for this. but it didn't quite fit. So the only other one I could think of was the Valentina Tarot. Now, I showed this very briefly when I first got this. I got this pre-loved. This uses the artwork of Guido Crepak's. It's a low Scarabeo deck. I got it on Vinted, and I got it because of my love of all things vintage. Now, when I got this deck, I went a bit Hyacinth Bouquet on it. I'm sorry for those not in the UK who aren't aware of Hyacinth Bouquet. She's very prim, proper comedy character. She's in a sitcom, a wonderful sitcom called Keeping Up Appearances. But she's very, very straight-laced. Everything is prim, proper, and correct. And, nothing must be remotely controversial. And yeah, I went a bit like that on the deck because where it was on Vinted, I hadn't really, there were a lot of pictures on there, but there weren't pictures of the slightly more risque cards. And I have to be honest, I found, so you won't necessarily see it yet, and I want to be a little bit mindful that not everybody on YouTube is going to want to see some of these cards, but I found some of them problematic because there are cards that depict what I initially interpreted as women in a submissive state. Let's put it that way. And that's something that I found particularly problematic. But then, and I kind of put it aside. But then when I looked again, I realised that if you look a little bit deeper, that may not be the only interpretation of what we're seeing. And I I'm kind of rethinking this deck. It's a deck that I want to go back to and go, okay, see, there's nothing submissive about that one, right? What have I just dropped? I've no idea. Anyway, but then there are quite a few images that show women in a power position as well. So, as I was trying to say before I dropped something and lost my train of thought, I think that this is a deck that requires a second look for me and a deeper look, rather than just going on the surface and going, oh, I don't like that card because, it seems derogatory. I think I need to look a bit deeper. So yeah, I think it's perhaps a little controversial in places and potentially problematic, depending on how you look at it. But it's a gorgeous deck. It's so beautifully produced. I've edged it in black, but the cardstock's gorgeous. The artwork's fabulous, even the fancy borders, which I'm quite surprised about. So yeah, it's a great little deck actually. And I think I need to stop being quite so sort of judgmental and prudish about it and properly delve into it. And yeah, give it a second chance, honestly. I'm not going to give a second chance on my camera stand though, because it's really getting on my nerves now. But yeah, that is, I'll pack that away properly later. That is the Valentina Tarot. Okay, so the next prompt is a deck that defines your practice right now. Those of you that have been here before will know that I've chosen July to focus on ancestor work and connecting with ancestors. And the deck I've been using for my daily spread is the Relative Tarot by Carrie Paris. And this is a deck for ancestor work, 100%. Do excuse the fact that my dog is out in the garden. She is with her daddy. But She's having a bit of a bark out there. Yeah, this is a deck for ancestor work. It originally was a deck that Carrie Paris produced with just, I think it was just mages and court cards from photographs of other people's relatives and ancestors that they had sent to her. But this is the expanded edition that includes now minors. And as well as being able to sort of give this your kind of traditional reading, you have numbers on the minors and the majors, not the court cards. And these just kind of show sort of card twins, if you like, and cards with that corresponds to each other. So I've been massively stalked by, oh, would you believe that? I was just about to say I've been massively stalked by the magician, and who should pop out as I say that? And the magician is in the inner expression group. And you have kind of this is the minors that correspond to it. It's all done with the numerology. And yeah, I won't try and go more deeply into the system now, because with my lack of being able to articulate anything properly as soon as I hit record, I will probably just confuse the issue. But yeah, it's not a traditional guidebook in the sense it doesn't give you all of your traditional meanings for each card. It talks about the associations and the numerology, and that adds a really cool depth to the deck, an extra kind of layer to your readings. And I've thoroughly enjoyed reading with this. I've been pairing it in my readings with the Vintage Wisdom Oracle. If you go back to one of the last couple of videos I posted, I'm trying to remember, because where I'm filming a few in a row, I can't remember exactly what I'm going to be posting when. So, but there is a little kind of one I did face to face recently, where I talked about being halfway through July and what's kind of my reflections on it. And I've been using this in a, oh yeah, sorry, I should say there's 3 different lovers cards in this deck too. I've been using this with a spirit guide spread daily. And my reasoning for that is because I have reason to believe that one of my late grandmothers, who passed away a long time before I was born, that she is my spirit guide. And so I thought, if I, connect with her whilst using this deck, that's the best way to get a reading out of this, at least a good reading, the reading that I want and the connection that I want from this deck. And I have to say, it's been superb. It's kind of been a little bit mentally exhausting, I'm not going to lie. Now, I don't know whether that's because of, I don't know, is it the energy it takes to connect, or whether it's sort of the added sort of layering of the numerology, or whether July has just been a mentally exhausting month, which, it kind of has been a little bit as well. So I'm pushing ahead with it because I want, if once I set an intention for the month, I want to push on. But yeah, it's I can feel it in my head now. It is quite mentally exhausting, the practice I have at the moment, but it's worth it because it's very, very interesting, very deep, very on the nose, and very insightful. Yes, anyway, that is the Relative Tarot. Okay, so the penultimate prompt, you'll be pleased to hear. Well done if you're still here, by the way. Let me tell you what the prompt is first. This is a deck that pulls you out of a rut. And I have battled with myself a little bit here as to whether to show the deck that immediately came to mind, because I don't want this to be to look like some kind of promo, because it's not at all. But this deck pulled me out of quite a big rut very recently, and it just seems to be the most fitting deck. Just actually, it's in this little slot in my bureau. This is my own deck. This is the deck that, if you've watched my previous videos, you'll have seen this before. This is the deck that I created purely for myself. I have no current plans to release it. I'm not looking to fund it. I'm not looking to get it printed and distributed. It's mine, for me, at least for the time being. And it's, as I've said before, it's not remotely perfect. It's messy. I used the wrong pen to line it, so it kind of smudged the backs. And then when I tried to do the backs with a stamp that I ordered, you haven't seen the backs yet, actually. That was a disaster, because it's kind of weight and the amount of ink on the stamp is inconsistent. Whilst I don't tend to read reversals, the deck can't be reversed because the stamp was too big to fit it twice, which is what my plan was. Yeah, it's been a little bit of a disaster in terms of production. But it was so important to me to do this by hand, to not do anything digitally. But the reason this has pulled me out of a rut, and I think it will probably do so in the future, is because I'd got to a point where imposter syndrome was affecting my practice. So as an example, I would read for my husband without needing to go to the guidebook. I would read intuitively. And then I'd go, oh, but hang on, let me just go to the guidebook and just check that I'm right about that, and that I haven't got that wrong, or that I haven't missed anything, or that I haven't got this card mixed up with another card. And I just started to lose faith in myself. And I started to, even though I've been learning so much more and working really, consistently on my practice, I just began to utterly doubt that I had a clue, frankly. And, my husband would say, why are you doing that? You don't need to go to the guidebook. You're right. I can see exactly what you're saying to me. It's exactly what I've been thinking. But I just was convinced that I needed to use guidebooks, and that I didn't have faith in my own intuition. So with this deck, as well as producing it completely by hand, which is why some of the drawings are a little bit, I wanted to do it without looking at any meanings. I didn't want to look anything up. I didn't want to read anything. I just wanted to do this from the heart and from the head. It's almost like a way of proving to myself that I do know these cards. I do understand them. As well as a really therapeutic process, because I love to create. I love drawing, painting, scrapbooking, the lot. But it was just such a valuable learning process. Sorry, I've lost my train of thought again. That's a shocker. It's kind of affirmed for me that I do understand. And as well as deepening my understanding of the cards at the same time. But it completely got me out of that rut of not having faith in my own intuition and my own interpretations of the cards. I'm sorry, apparently now somebody's decided to mow their lawn or something outside. Perils of having a window open. But yeah, so that is definitely a deck that has got me out of a rut, and I'm sure will do so in the past if ever I'm back into imposter syndrome again. It's messy, it's imperfect, but it's mine. Okay, and the final prompt is for a deck that waits patiently. A lot of my decks are waiting patiently because I have too many to sort of use like a lot or use regularly. But I have talked about this one before in the same context. So it kind of had to be this one. And I know I've shown it before, but again, you know, if I'm going to be honest, it's this deck. It's the Line Strider Tarot by Ciolo Thompson. So the thing with the Line Strider Tarot is that I love it. I absolutely love it. But I go to my shelf, and it's on my shelf at the moment. I need to actually reorganize because I've got a few new decks in, but it's on my shelf with all my other Llewellyn decks, and I go to reach for it. What am I doing? And then I change my mind and go for something else. And I don't know why, because I love it and I want to use it. I so badly want to use it. But for now, it sits patiently on my shelf going, me, oh, okay, no, maybe next time. And that's really poor, because it's not everyone's cup of tea. I have seen some people on TarotTube that don't like this deck. I think somebody described the artwork as being quite sloppy. I love the artwork. I love the fact that it looks slightly unfinished. Yeah, I like it. I really do. I like that it offers something different from a lot of my other decks. I like that despite not having all that background stuff that I talked about before, where, you know, I like to pick out anything in the background that might deepen the reading. It doesn't have all that, but there's so much in the image itself that it almost doesn't need it. And despite it looking very sort of minimal, there's a lot going on there if you really look. And yeah, see, every time I go through this, I think, oh, I'm going to use this one next. I'm going to use this one next. And then I don't. Why? So I think maybe what I might do, maybe this could be my study deck for next month. Maybe this is my August study deck. Maybe. Or maybe it's just going to have to sit and wait patiently for a little bit longer, for when the time feels right for this particular deck. But it's so lovely. I know it's not everyone's cup of tea, but I really love it. And I always feel quite guilty that I kind of almost reach for it. I tease it. I go, do you know what? It's your turn today, Line Strider. Come on, this is your moment. And then I go, oh, actually, no, it's not. And I feel quite guilty. It sounds so ridiculous, particularly to anyone that doesn't understand the whole tarot thing. It won't make any sense to anybody. Oh, for goodness sake, it's a deck. Why are you feeling so guilty? But, you know, they do have personalities, don't they? And yeah, maybe the time needs to be right, but it, for the meantime, sits and waits patiently, unlike my dog, apparently, who's clearly not being patient about something. But anyway, that is the Line Strider Tarot by Ciolo Thompson. And there we are. That is the end of this video. You'll be relieved to hear. Please go and treat yourself to a glass of wine, a cup of tea, a biscuit, some chocolate, whatever it is that you do to reward yourself after an arduous task, like sitting and watching this entire VR. I want to thank Simon from Hermit's Cave again for the hashtag, but also just for the really wonderful, inspiring content that he puts out. Thank you so much for watching, for sticking with me. Please like and subscribe if you feel so moved to do so, if you haven't already. And if you're not doing it for me, then do it for Mike, the owl, created by Mini Dilly. Take care, guys. Thanks so much, and I'll see you soon.